Amen.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. This is the Mac, Jack, and Jim Sunday Football Show. And Sunday in the NFL is great, especially when you have the baseball playoffs on top of it. It makes it a great, great Sunday. But we're about football over here. And every week we say the same thing. There's so many storylines. There's always a storyline in the NFL. Is there ever a dull week in the NFL, except maybe during the years Jeff Coat was playing when it was a much slower paced game than it is today? But in the modern NFL, everything is fast and the news moves fast as well.
Jack,
Jim,
were you a boxing writer? Does anybody box anymore?
Well, we're not talking about boxing over here. I don't talk about boxing on Sundays during the NFL season, unless there's a big fight, of course, the night before. But the big story, I guess, that came out of the NFL this week is the league and the players' union is actually agreeing on something very quickly, the concussion protocol. And once again, it takes something to happen to get all sides together. And what had happened to Tua a week ago, Tua Tagliavola, the Miami Dolphin quarterback, woke up both sides that the NFL has to adjust this policy. I mean, what do you guys take out of that? And what exactly is the new concussion protocol? Are you aware of it, Jim? What new could they possibly put in place? Because as it is, they're protecting the quarterback as much as possible, it seems.
I don't think it's just the quarterback, because if you saw what happened in the Denver game, and boy, it's slipping my mind this morning.
Indianapolis,
when Hines got hurt and he was wobbling around, they immediately got him off the field. Right. And it happened in Tampa Bay with the tight end. I think it's all positions. If you even symptoms of concussion, they're going to take you off and they're not going to allow you to go back in the game.
But by all rights, guys, if someone suffers a concussion, and Jim mentioned boxing before, there's an automatic 90-day waiting period before a boxer can box again in an actual fight. Those are the rules, at least in place. But in football, you can't wait 90 days.
No, your season will be almost over. I mean,
so what is the difference as far as safety goes?
I think what they're going to do is examine them, and they're going to, it's like you said, there are more protocols to get you back on the field. You're probably going to be out a couple games. You probably are not going to be out just one game. You're going to be out until you're fully healthy or fully cognizant of what's going on. That's my opinion on it. I don't know. And I haven't read the protocol, but I'm sure there are going to be a lot more safety measures in it.
But yeah, guys, but one thing, you can never make the game completely safe for any sport. We mentioned just baseball very briefly. Yesterday, there was one play that took place in the game between the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays. There was a bloop hit to the outfield. It was in nowhere land. Mm-hmm. The Blue Jays center fielder, George Springer, was sprinting all out head first trying to catch the ball. And he collided with his own teammate, an infielder who was trying to get the ball, the bloop hit, which made me kind of think, imagine if George Springer, who was carted off the field, by the way, he's okay, but was carted off the field, had he gotten permanently injured, I have the feeling the league may have had designated areas where the infield is not allowed to go all the way out to the outfield.
I wouldn't think that'd be, but there are things that you have to realize that are part of every sport. Like you said, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and you know that you have the chances of getting injured in certain ways, the concussions.
Well, guys, this is a football show, so let's turn to football, get off baseball,
And let's welcome Keith Engle into the studio.
Concussions don't take place in football, Max, so let's get off that.
Speaking of concussions, here's Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Keith Engle,
Keith, we got a lot of things to talk to you about today.
Oh, God, Jim, that scares me a little now.
New England versus Detroit, and they're starting their third-string quarterback, New England, Zappe. And Zappe, honestly, I watched that whole game against Green Bay. This kid's got ability, and he's got a background, too. He started at Houston Baptist, went to Western Kentucky, and the kid's got talent now.
All in a year and a half, he went from Houston Baptist to Western Kentucky to starting an NFL game. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, and he did play well last week, Jim, especially for the situation he was thrown into against one of the better teams in the NFL. But he still made some rookie mistakes, held the ball too long a couple of times that hurt him. I thought the team didn't do him any favors because they were running the ball very well and protecting him, I thought, and putting him in a position to succeed. And near the end of the game, they got away from that a little bit, tried to put the ball a little bit more in his hands, which I didn't think was the best idea. But I think he'll be okay today.
I do too. But one thing to remember is Detroit is not very good versus the run. They're the worst team in the NFL versus the run. So I anticipate New England trying to establish the run game.
Go ahead.
I think that if Zappe keeps playing the way he plays, I think Mac Jones ends up a second-string quarterback on your team.
But Mac keeps playing. What's he done? Keeps playing the way he's played. He came in against the Packers. He wasn't really effective. I mean, he did what he could do, which was. He wasn't in a good spot, and Mac Jones is in any danger of losing his job at this moment to Zappe, then it doesn't say much about Mac Jones.
As I told you guys Friday, right? If Mac Jones were able to play today, he would play. There's no doubt about it.
But it's the same thing with Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott. It's the same thing. They're not going to lose their job.
No.
Now, look at if they run off 5 wins and Mac Jones is out and Zappe plays out of his mind, well, then all bets are off. But but I got to see that first. Anything's possible, though. Yes, the kid's played well. The kid's got a good background, and he seems to, he wasn't rattled. He didn't seem to get rattled in any situation on Sunday, which was impressive. And let's see how he plays today. Again, good spot for him to really get his feet under him because this is not a good defensive Lions team. So you'll see a lot of run. You'll see a lot of play action passes, which will give him a chance to succeed, I think.
Yeah, and the Lions have 6 players out, if I'm correct.
Something like that.
They got their star running back, 2 of their receivers are out, and then they have some defensive players out.
Well, when you give up 45 points to Seattle, everyone is out as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Lions defense has been dreadful, and they've been a disappointment to me because I thought they were ready to take the next step up.
But Jack, as you have to understand is that Seattle is playing better than anybody ever anticipated. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but you got to give them credit. They play in New Orleans, which is a winnable game for them. We thought they were going to be the first pick in the NFL draft for next year.
If I'm not mistaken, Detroit's the highest scoring team in the NFL. I'm almost positive. And they've only been outscored by 1. So their defense has let them down. This team's only a couple plays away from being 3-1, maybe. So
that's right.
They're playing good football on one side of the football.
The happiest I am is
plays from being 0-4 as well.
Agreed.
But I like Jared Goff and what he did and what he's doing because everybody had written him off when he got traded from the Rams and went to Detroit. And he is playing pretty well. He's scoring points.
Yeah, and their rookie wide receiver who had some injury concerns coming in has played pretty well too.
Yes.
The kid from Alabama.
We talk about Williams over there.
Yeah, he'll get a couple touchdowns today. Listen, I don't think this game's going to be terribly low scoring. The Patriots have played some decent defense at times, and then other times it looks a little porous. So the Lions could score some points today. I look to see a little bit of a shootout, but a shootout in the sense that the Patriots are going to run the ball for a lot and score a lot off that running game, I think.
Hey, Keith, before getting back to the NFL, give us a quick college football review yesterday.
Interesting again. It's going to be interesting to see if Ohio State pretty soon starts to get some votes for number one, because Alabama struggled again yesterday against a not so good A&M team. Georgia played better against Missouri, but they had two subpar games before this, so that's going to be interesting. UCLA as a team now, they've arrived. They've made a statement the last 2 weeks. Washington and Utah yesterday, a good Utah team. Chip Kelly's team 6-0, and this is a great start for him. This was a big test for that team yesterday.
And Keith,
yep.
And with UCLA, what surprised me about UCLA watching them yesterday, how physical they are, because Utah has always been the most physical team in the Pac-12. But UCLA, I'm telling you, I'm hoping they'll both go undefeated until they meet in November, UCLA and USC.
It's possible. USC struggled a little bit yesterday against Washington State. They did win the game by 14, I think, but they struggled for 3 quarters. Washington State's a pretty good football team. Chip Kelly's teams are not known for their toughness necessarily either. So this is an interesting development, and I think they're for real. The Pac-12 is better than I would have expected. I didn't think USC was going to ascend this quickly under Lincoln Riley. I didn't think UCLA would be this good. And we saw Oregon get killed in the first game against Georgia. They played better since. I think the Pac-12 is a little better than maybe we give them credit for.
What do you think about the Big Ten, other than Ohio State?
Wide open. Michigan's playing good football, struggled for a half yesterday, but finally finished off Indiana. Penn State, Michigan, I think next week is going to tell a lot about who's maybe the second best team in this conference. Listen, I've never been a big James Franklin fan. I can't put my finger on it. One thing I can say, I think I come to that conclusion, is he never beats Ohio State and Michigan when they're really good. He beats them when they're not, even when he's got good teams. So this will be the first test for. Listen, Michigan hasn't played this. That might have been that was their second Big Ten team. They haven't their game. They haven't really played anybody all that good. Maryland gave them a good game, but. And probably the same could be said for Ohio State.
Here's going to blow your mind. Do you realize that Nebraska continues to win?
They are going
to be the representative from the West.
That West is so wide open.
Purdue is probably the best team over there.
I would say that if they've struggled with some injuries, nice win for them yesterday. But that division is so wide open. The ACC Coastal's the same way.
Oh yes. No
Can I make an argument that Michigan and Ohio State is the greatest rivalry in team sports today?
I'll put them in the top 5. I don't know if it's hard to say number 1.
That's hard to say.
But I would say they're in the top 5.
Yeah.
I would say so. Obviously, it's a better rivalry, and they're both good, but it loses a little luster too when they play. They can't play in the Big Ten championship game.
That's ever. Right. Only one of them can.
Yeah, so it loses a little. I mean, it's still an important game, obviously, but they can never play like in the most important game in the conference.
Hey, listen,
and you look at other ones.
Jim, UConn's playing off the hook right now. They're really playing some really good ball.
They beat yesterday, Mac. I didn't see the score.
FIU or something like that. I don't know.
FIU is awful.
Mac. If Jim could do it all over again, he was a young man about to pick a college, and he's getting all his letters. And he gets a letter from UConn. I don't know whether Jim's opening that letter up. Okay.
He wasn't ready to come out.
Out of politeness, Jim folds it, he puts in the stack. Maybe
if I was a women's basketball player, that's what I thought.
Jim will only open it up to see if there's a fat check in there that far exceeds anything else. That would be the only reason.
UConn is. You're right, though, Mac. They are.
Yeah.
They're playing better.
I mean, in Mac's defense, they're winning some games where they wouldn't have probably beat FIU last year. So Jim Morris, instilling some winning culture there a little bit. They're not playing anybody, but still, wins are wins.
Wins are wins.
You know who's disappointed me a lot? Believe it or not, Alabama, because this was supposed to be one of the more powerful Alabama teams in years. They were supposed to be an absolute powerhouse. But all they're doing is winning. It seems every week it's a competitive game. They're not rolling over people. I know Georgia's technically the defending national champions, but emotionally we think of Alabama.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, Bryce Young was not in the game.
He didn't play, right?
And that was the Heisman Trophy winner.
Has Bryce Young's stock went down a little bit too? Because I hear whispers he's not really that great of an NFL prospect.
As far as a college quarterback, I don't think his stock has fallen that far. CJ Stroud's pulling away from the field here a little bit, though.
I agree.
As far as the Heisman goes, Bryce Young. I mean, I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that he's a great prospect on the next level. I'm just not sure. You can't be sure of Alabama quarterbacks. I mean, I thought Jalen Hurts wouldn't be, and right now he is. I thought Mac Jones would be, and now we got some questions about Mac Jones. So I don't know. Who knows about that?
And there's a lot of with Bryce Young, his size.
And
I'm interested what he's measured at.
Yeah. I'm guessing they've given him the benefit of doubt height-wise.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
But he does have some quickness, and he does have some field leadership. So you'll see.
And it's interesting, Jack, when you say, geez, Alabama's are they any good?
Winning. That's what I was laughing at.
All they do is keep winning. Are they really any good?
Well, Alabama, year after year, they tend to peak towards the end. They tend to get better the second half of the season. It's as if they're playing themselves into top form. It's like Saban is holding them back a little bit. I'm not saying he is, but that's the impression you're getting. And then they kind of turn it on, later.
That's smart, though, if you think about it, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right.
And you want to be playing your best at the end of the season.
Is there a team that you guys think has a shot at getting into national championship, an underdog team, a smaller school?
Watch out for TCU. TCU's playing some really good football. They've got a ways to go. It'll be interesting to see when we get the first playoff ranking here in a few weeks, or I guess it's a few weeks. They're playing some really good football. I mean, Oklahoma's no good, but they had almost 700 yards offense against Oklahoma last week. They handled a emotionally sky-high Kansas team yesterday, 38-31, I think.
TCU. Sonny Dykes is another guy that starts off fast and doesn't end well.
That's a good point. That's a fair point.
I just think that's what's going to happen to him. He's doing a great job, don't get me wrong, but watching him, they got some holes. And a team that can run the ball efficiently and just Ewers back at Texas, they'll give them issues. I'll tell you a team that nobody's talking about is Kansas State.
Yeah, that's a good one too. The Tulane loss going to hurt them when they get to the bowl rank or the playoff rankings.
Oh yeah, no question. But
they should have won that game. They got caught. Tulane's a good football team, by the way, but they got caught looking ahead to that Oklahoma game a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But they are a very good football team. Martinez is playing. If he played like that at Nebraska, Scott Frost might still have a job.
That's true. That is true.
Guys, in a little over an hour, the NFL Sunday is going to kick off because there's a game in London, the Packers and the Giants. Jim, as a former player, how much does a 5-hour time difference make? 5 hours from the East Coast for the Giants. I'm not sure. The Packers might be 6 hours.
I think you're right, but for me, it wasn't that big of a difference because although it's like you said, it's 8:30 here, it's 6 hours, and your body gets adjusted depending on what time you left. I played over there twice and had no issues. I played it, and actually I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing over there, and I didn't think it was any issues. It was kind of fun to be in London. And now they're talking. Did you hear what Roger Goodell said? He's thinking about putting 4 teams. I don't know how they're going to do it in the London, in the England. And I don't know how.
I said that. Why not an NFL franchise? Then you put me down, Jim, for that.
Yeah,
one Jim's. That's why it's a little bit different. You can't do one team over there. That would be a terrible.
That's what they're saying.
My logic is from at least the East Coast, it's a 7-hour time difference. New York to London. New York to Vegas is close to 6 hours. So it's not like you're going to Australia where you're traveling like 16 hours.
Jack, that's not true. New York to Vegas is 3 hours. Think about that.
Maybe in your private jet that was speeding. No, New York to Las Vegas.
No, I'm talking about The time difference. That's what
Time
affects.
difference. I'm talking about the flight, getting on the plane.
Okay, the flight.
That's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm saying.
Enough.
Huh?
When did you go? When did your teams go when they went over there, Jim? What day?
Where did we go?
A week before?
We went the a week.
Right
Just
after.
a week before to get adjusted to it. Yes. It was spring. It was not spring, preseason games, both of them against the Chicago Bears.
Speaking of the Packers, they came up yesterday because one of our debate questions was we gave OBJ. He's going to make a decision soon which team he goes back to. And this takes into account the whole league. But we said go back with the Giants, go back with the Rams, or go to the Packers. But now we have Von Miller's recruiting with Buffalo, which could be a good fit. If you're OBJ and the money is the same and you're thinking what's best for you purely as a football player on the field, nothing more, taking winning into account perhaps, taking environment where you feel you're going to be accepted, where you're going to be comfortable, what do you think you do if you're OBJ? Where would you pick? I'll start off saying I'd pick the Green Bay Packers because Aaron Rodgers needs me in the worst way. I'd be the man. And if you have OBJ's ego, that's the place you're the man.
Possibly. I
But
think
wouldn't you be the man at the Giants?
I would take the Giants because I'd want to go backward and prove something. I would. The team's 3-1. They need help desperately at wide receiver. And I would choose the Giants. I wouldn't go to Buffalo because there's too many weapons there. I think he'll get lost, and he probably won't be happy.
On Diggs there, but
I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots take a shot at him. Bill Belichick has a way of
that is true. That is true.
Older players and that are out a lot of him.
His name's come up a couple of times in the past, not quite as much this time around as other times he's been available. But if he's changed his colors a little bit, which he seems to have. I guess we'd have to see, a couple of games where he didn't get the ball thrown to him, say in Buffalo, to see if his colors really changed. But
let me ask you this question, and it's just as OG is Odell Beckham as bad as Anthony, the receiver was at Tampa?
Oh, Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown.
No, I
don't think so either.
No,
he didn't seem as disruptive as Antonio Brown.
It feels like a different kind of disruption.
That's what I'm thinking. Do you agree?
OBJ would kind of like have a hissy fit on the sideline, but it would be more like a private hissy fit that would be a distraction. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm the Green Bay Packers, I sit him down and say, you have your choice. Who would you rather have throwing the ball to you, Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. But
and
again,
also with LA. But guys,
he has some pride, Jack, and he wants to go back and make it right where he made it wrong.
He could go, and if he went back to the Rams, who he was with last year, good vibes.
They could use him too.
Cooper Kupp is going to be the lead receiver, so he's the main guy. So, I mean, I just see the fit overall. But wouldn't it be funny, guys, if he went to a stacked team like the Miami Dolphins out of nowhere, like pulled a surprise?
That would be a shock.
Listen, I think with him, I don't think anything would surprise me where he decided. Again, the team's got to want him too. Don't forget. So
no, we mentioned before, Keith, with quarterbacks with Zappy, what going forward, and Mac thought maybe Mac Jones' job could be in jeopardy if Zappy plays really well. But don't we have that all around the league? Like today, you went to New Orleans Saints. Andy Dalton is, coming in place of Jameis Winston, who's injured. Let's say Andy Dalton has a big game against Seattle. Would Jameis Winston's starting position be in jeopardy?
Well, he doesn't have the same cachet as, say, like Dak Prescott or,
That's true.
He's probably got Mac Jones probably doesn't have a lot more than Winston either. No. But as a rule, you don't lose your unless there's really weird circumstances. You're not going to lose your job if you're an established starter to injury. You're just not going to.
I agree. You had issues like even in New England with Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe.
Little different though, because at that time. If people, and maybe many people don't remember this, Brady had outplayed Bledsoe and all the other quarterbacks in training camp, and the coaches would have made him the number one, but Bledsoe had just signed a 10-year extension, and they had no choice but to play Bledsoe at the start of that season. Yeah. So it's a little bit different.
But didn't Bledsoe get injured though?
He did in game 3, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know, we should change that term when they say a player cannot lose his job through injury. If that's a team's philosophy, some teams have that philosophy, some don't. We should use the term quarterback because wide receivers never seem to lose their job. Take Michael Thomas on the Saints. He's been injured forever. He's out now. At what point do you move on from him?
Well, do they have better options? I don't know that they have better options either.
Well, Jarvis
Chris
Landry
Olave is playing good. Chris Olave.
Yeah, that's true. Olave and Landry are playing pretty well.
Yeah, they're pretty good. That kind of look, when I look at the Cleveland Browns and look at what they're doing, and they let Jarvis Landry go.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, guys, what some people, they haven't talked about yet is Watson's coming back. How about OBJ with Watson?
Well, that'd be an interesting combination too.
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
But I don't like when he's coming back to his old team, Cleveland, because he left on uncomfortable circumstances.
Most of those
that was more Baker Mayfield than him.
Right. That was the big problem there.
Well, it seems like Jim feels the team should take a chance on Antonio Brown. He'd be
No. Shoot, he's over in Dubai running around naked.
I can laugh about it now. We can maybe make a joke, him taking his shirt off, doing a couple of jumping jacks. But at the time, I was horrified. He was having a mental break.
He took off more than his shirt.
Yeah.
He did. In front of the crowd. Basically, at that moment, he ended his NFL career.
Yeah.
At that moment.
But here's the thing is you cannot hide anything these days. Because look at TMZ got video of the fight in the Golden State Warriors practice. God, do you imagine? And then Aaron Donald, the thing that happened with him in the preseason.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if this was 10, 15 years ago? How many fights would be on? I mean, this is crazy.
Guys know that they're being watched pretty much 24/7 now. Exactly. So
I think the league in large part is a PR machine. Aaron Donald swings his helmet at practice. He could hurt someone just like Myles Garrett could have done during an actual game. But because it's a practice, people are making as big a deal out of it. The video isn't quite as clear. The league would rather look the other way. Alvin Kamara, for example, he's due back today for the Saints. To my knowledge, he wasn't disciplined. What happened in Las Vegas?
I don't know.
He was involved. His friends beat someone up. If they were falsely accused of something, I want to hear about it, but not a word.
But here's the thing you got to realize, Jack. There are always going to be disputes in practice because it's so competitive and you're dealing with people who are extremely competitive. If you think I didn't get into fights in practice, sometimes I initiated them to get everybody's blood flowing.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys.
That's just the way it is.
Butler.
Good morning,
Robert.
Jim.
Good morning, Robert. Robert has a late bulletin on the Tennessee Titans.
I want to.
Well, he got the Tennessee Volunteers right now.
Oh man, Jim, we're pretty hyped, Jim, about that.
Yeah, undefeated. They beat Vanderbilt yesterday, correct?
Vanderbilt. No, they beat LSU yesterday.
LSU. I'm sorry, LSU.
Great.
Keith, you got to take off.
Slight, man.
I'm going to run. Want to say hello to Robert, guys. Great talking to you guys as always.
Good stuff.
All right, Keith. I'm still trying to get your Yankee card back.
Work on that for me, Jim. Tape it together.
We need us Yankee guys to stick together.
I hear you.
Have a good one, Keith.
All right, Keith. See you later. Robert, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm good, Jim. Yeah, a lot of good games. Now, Trayvon Burks, guys, he will be out their number one pick for about 4 weeks. At least 4 weeks. He's got turf toe. So there is some Tennessee Titan news out there. Number one
pick. Could I ask
is
you this? Didn't Burks have trouble? Correct me if I'm wrong. Something like asthma in training camp.
Yes.
He had to miss time. Now he's missing time with his toe. That's not a good sign when you're first coming into the league and you're a young man and can't get on the field.
Well, he's made a lot of progress though. Prior to this turf toe injury, they're getting him acclimated to the offense, doing some little shadow crossers, screen passes. He's getting involved in the offense. I'm actually pleasantly surprised of how well he's played coming in and getting acclimated. But he does got the turf toe. He's going to be out about at least 4 weeks. We'll see how that plays out. But the other players are playing well. Tennessee beat the Colts last week.
Yes.
Colts beat Kansas City and they beat Denver. So they have a hard time scoring, but they're pretty good in the trenches.
Let me ask you a question, Robert.
Yeah.
Would you think that Tennessee would look at ODB?
I think so. I think so. I don't know that he's trying to possibly get back on with the Giants. Mac, I've been reading that, by the way.
Yeah.
I would possibly look. I don't have any issues with a guy like Beckham. They've got Robert Woods doing well. Westbrook, Akini. They got a few no names that the guys I haven't even heard of. They're bringing in off the practice squad.
The question I would ask is Tennessee grass or field turf?
I think they're grass.
And the reason I ask that is he wants to play on grass. He does not want to play on field turf anymore.
Yeah, but I haven't been down there in a long time. It felt like a rug. We broke in the stadium about 20 years ago and ran around the place, and it felt like a carpet. So I don't know what that means.
After running around stadiums, I don't know, dude.
The 7 years statute of limitations ran out there, Jack. I guess I can admit to breaking and entering.
Robert, your volunteers are playing well.
Number one offense in the country, Jim. 140-13 at LSU yesterday.
Wow.
My guess is they'll be. Yes. Tennessee, Hendon Hooker is definitely in the Heisman conversation. Tennessee may be 5th, possibly 3rd when the AP rankings come out. Alabama's number 1. That's a huge matchup next week, guys.
You think Tennessee will be above Ohio State?
Possibly, yeah. That maybe that's wishful thinking, because they got a really good offense too. But I think top 5, possibly.
Oh yeah, they'll be top 5.
Their resume's better, Jim. Tennessee's got a better
play
resume
next week. Tennessee.
Alabama here.
Oh Lord.
Alabama, Knoxville. I'm in Nashville, but yeah.
Yeah, getting back there with the Titans, it seemed after losing their first 2 games, they've right the ship. They're 2-2 now. Yeah. They play at Washington. And to me, games like this are must game. When you're playing a weaker team, you've got to put those games in the bank, because if you don't, then it becomes a long season when you're playing the stronger teams. Yeah. And one thing about the Commanders, they do have a very good run defense. And Derrick Henry for the Titans, he's shown he has a lot left in the tank, still coming back from the injury.
Yeah, but Jack, you say that, but listen, they're all professionals.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't just count them out. You can't overlook them. It's probably a huge trap game.
I agree.
You can't,
a huge trap game for Tennessee, not for Washington.
Right.
I think Tennessee, Washington has. I went to the game last week. Mm-hmm. And I think Washington has more problems than we ever imagined.
Yeah,
I really do. Wentz is
bust.
He's a bust. And then their defense, some of the things their defense are not sound. And you kind of like, look, what are they doing?
They give up a lot of sacks, guys. He's one of the most sacked quarterback in the league. Yeah. This is the kind of game Tennessee has a tendency to blow, though.
That is exactly right. That is. And Jack,
wait, guys. We criticize Carson Wentz, and maybe rightly so. But he left Indianapolis. Is Matt Ryan really doing any better than Carson Wentz did in Indianapolis?
I'm not a big Matt Ryan fan.
That's a fair point there. The lowest scoring offense in the league, guys, is the Indianapolis Colts, and they found a way to beat Denver. Russell Wilson's getting a shoulder looked at today.
Yeah, he tore a lat, but Denver is terrible though. That game, that was definitely a snooze. I hate to say it for both teams, because Denver should have won that game.
Yes.
You remember he threw the interception in the end zone, Russell Wilson.
And he missed a wide open receiver.
Russell Wilson's playing hurt, it came out. Do you think that had any bearing on anything? Or do you think Russell Wilson is just basically over the hill, guys?
I think that Terror Lack has definitely got to have it.
Yeah, he's not over the hill yet.
And, Mac was a quarterback. He'll tell you trying to throw it and torque that is hard.
But let's say you're hurt. Does that affect your judgment and not seeing a receiver that's wide open?
No, that doesn't affect your judgment.
Well, wasn't that the problem? Russell Wilson,
But it definitely affects.
Who was wide open.
It definitely affects your throwing motion. You throw from your thighs through your hips. I mean, it affects that.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other issues in Denver with just how everything is managed. I think, honestly, I think Hackett might be over his head for a first job.
Yeah.
What does an organization do? They can't move on from Hackett after 1 year. I mean, that's unheard of.
You're done. No, it isn't unheard of.
Well, Arizona did it.
Unless it's, I know Jacksonville did it with Urban Meyer. Unless it's a complete mess and the coach is unstable, you don't move on from him. If the coach, and Hackett looks like a pretty stable guy. He's just basically learning on the job right now. And Russell Wilson signed a long-term deal. You can't possibly move on from Russell Wilson or even make him.
I'm saying you're right on that, but Joseph never moved on from Joseph after a year.
Yes. Did they really?
Was it 2 years?
I know Arizona did after 1 year.
2 years, not 1 year.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that you can do that. If it's too big for him, and that guy paid a lot of money for that team. And these owners are not patient anymore.
It's one of the Walden family members. They've got enough spare change that's nothing to them. We got to see how they finish out towards the rest of the season. But I mean, it looks bad right now. It looks like he's just not getting enough work in with those receivers. He should not have missed that guy in the end zone.
Exactly.
But the defense is good at Denver. Jim, if you've ever been, how does a defensive unit feel? You would know. You're really doing your job. You're playing great, and the offense just can't get anything going game after game. How frustrating is it for the defense? Do they tend to turn on the offense?
They don't turn on them, Jack. What happens is they get worn down because you're on the field longer. The great offenses help your defense because they limit the opportunities for the other offense.
Yeah.
But because you're on that field a lot, you're going to get worn down. I remember we were pretty good defensively, and the New York Giants ran 90 plays. It looked like a mass unit, and it was a warm day in Dallas, and the Giants they physically just beat us up. We couldn't stand. Our offense had 26 plays the whole game, Jack.
Wow.
26 plays, and the Giants just took it to us.
Man,
so that's what
yes, sir. It's going to happen again this year too, Jim.
Guys,
I'm glad you believe that.
In this morning's game, it seems like Aaron Rodgers, he really wants to break out. It seems like Matt LaFleur, the Packer coach, has been holding him back because Rodgers' passing percentage shows the least amount of yards per pass since 2008. And Rodgers himself says he's itching to really break out, open things up, but he's been held back. At what point do you stop holding him back? But the weapons aren't getting any better. And I don't know whether this unit of receivers is improving.
But I've heard this, and it's just rumors, that they were going to bring Mac out of returement to play receiver.
All right. Every
receiver is, Tony's out.
Listen, guys, the number one thing they got to do is get the offensive line to protect it, right? I mean, you can't throw the ball to the offensive line.
Well, who they going to throw to?
I don't know.
Romeo Doubs he's on the verge, guys. Romeo Doubs. Elgin Jenkins and Bakhtiari, both of them have been playing together for a few games now. It's just a matter of time. He misses David Bakhtiari. Bakhtiari's been back the last few games. They're on the verge of breaking out any time.
I agree. I agree.
A lot of young guys there. What's his name? Robert Tanyan's just coming back from an ACL from last year.
Lazard is starting to get back into his groove.
Yeah, and he's the second receiver there. They're on the verge of really going on a run, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, the hammer has come down. The owner of Northeast Streaming Sports has told us that we have to get our picks in before the first game. So I'm not going to argue with it. If you guys want to argue with her, go ahead, but I'm not.
Well, we got to get the pack. We got to get the pack. We got to get the pack of Giants. Right, we'll do that before 9. Yeah. Before the first
I'm going
game.
to tell you, I'm going to go with the pack. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, Jim.
I'm sorry. I just have to be honest. I love the Giants to play well. They got too many injuries in that wide receiver core.
Yeah. You know, we're talking about the Giants. They have to address their future, and they're going to have to do it by the end of the season with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. I either sign them to long-term deals or not. If I'm the Giants, I sign Saquon Barkley as soon as I can. He's come all the way back. He is one of the best players in the NFL, period. He's a weapon. He's explosive. He's a difference maker. Daniel Jones, it's a wait and see. The jury is still out.
I disagree because I don't think the offensive line is the issue, not Daniel Jones. The offensive line is the issue. They have to correct that offensive line because I think Daniel Jones could win in this league.
And the wide receivers too. I mean, who do you really got to throw to? So, I mean, you can't blame Daniel Jones for that. Daniel Jones is running for his life, getting hit all the time.
I don't blame him, but you have to do a little better. Not that he's been bad, but he just hasn't been good. I'll give you an example. You think Josh Allen has it much better at Buffalo? His offensive line hasn't really been protecting him. That's why he runs a lot. Patrick Mahomes, when he's been under pressure, he kind of makes things happen.
Yeah, but Josh Allen might have one of the top receivers in the league.
Yeah. He's a much better quarterback.
Daniel Jones. Can you name it?
Yeah.
The Giants have had injuries in the receiver position, but basically it was a good receiver core when healthy with the Giants.
Yeah. Yeah.
They underutilized Kadarius Toney as well. The number 1 draft pick. He's in his second year. Either he has it or he doesn't, and he has all the potential in the world. How they utilize him.
But Kadarius Toney, what has he done? He hasn't done anything.
But he has it. They turn him into a part-time player. He's the Obi Toppin of the New York Giants. You know, like a part-time. They limit the amount he plays. You got to just let him play. If he was with Dallas, if Toney was with Dallas, he'd be put in a similar role to CD Lamb, I bet.
Yeah, but here's my question: is if you say, okay, you're finished with Daniel Jones, who do you get to place him? The guy that's going to be the hottest guy on it is Jimmy G. Is Jimmy G an upgrade from him?
Hendon Hooker's available in the draft, Jim.
Guys, let me make
how many really great players come in, and in this, you have the Dan Marinos. But how many great players, the Peyton Mannings?
Yeah, they're normally
players coming.
Yeah, they're normally those ones you're talking about are the ones that normally are holding the clipboards and waiting and learning.
That's right.
Guys, no, I'm talking about long-term deals for big quarterback money. You don't invest it in a Daniel Jones unless he's proven he's the guy. If the jury's still out, you could go year to year. I like to tell the story of Geno Smith, who's actually having an excellent year with Seattle. When he was a Jet quarterback, his first year, he was a starter. They went 8-8. And I thought to myself, is he the Jet quarterback of the future? And my thought was, I don't know. He hasn't showed me he is. He hasn't showed me he isn't. So with a guy like that, you try to go year to year until he shows you he definitely is. Look, Cleveland had that decision they had to make with Baker Mayfield. And then in his 4th year, he showed Cleveland he wasn't the guy. Or, of course, them getting Deshaun Watson made that decision easier.
Well, not to pick on Robert, but look at Ryan Tannehill. He's nothing but a game manager. And look at all the money he's got. Look all the money. Look on it.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And in a way, it's paid off for Tennessee, but I'm not sure you invest that type of money in a Ryan Tannehill. I mean, there's so many quarterback openings in the league. Look, Pittsburgh, to me, Mike Tomlin, who I would say off the top of my head, if I had to say who's the best coach in the NFL, I think I'd give Tomlin my vote. Not most accomplished, that's Belichick, of course.
Yeah.
Even though Tomlin is tremendously accomplished. He's making this bold move to Kenny Pickett now. There can't be any turning back once he gave this starting job to Kenny Pickett, because if Kenny Pickett's not getting it done, and you go back to Mitch Trubisky or heaven forbid Mason Rudolph, what does that say about the future? Kenny Pickett is the starter. So what's your reaction to him so early in the season pulling the plug on Mitch Trubisky?
Well, if you remember, when Roethlisberger initially started, it was after 3 games. So that's what he's thinking. And he saw enough of Trubisky. And one thing I noticed, and I don't think they're going to win today. They play Buffalo.
Yeah.
But one thing I saw about Pickett, he brings energy. And maybe that's youthful energy. He doesn't know everything, but he does bring energy to the team. He makes mistakes, which young players do, but he made some plays too.
Yeah.
I
3 turnovers, 2 touchdown drives for Pickett. And he kind of reminded me a little bit of what the energy that Jalen Hurts brought to Philadelphia.
Yes.
Then back in 2005, I think, brought to Pittsburgh. And man, they went 15-1 his rookie year, by the way.
I'm really not a big Pickett fan, guys.
You're not? Why is that?
Because I don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
Wow.
I think that he's going to be a good quarterback, but I really don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
That's interesting.
I'm not a big fan. I think Trubisky is better than Pickett, to be honest with you.
Do you think Trubisky, Mac, was really given a full opportunity these few games? Is it enough of a body of work? Because Mac Trubisky had the opportunity to go to the Giants and play for Brian Daboll, who was his offensive coordinator at Buffalo. They wanted him there in case Daniel Jones stumbled.
Sure.
And Brian Daboll had to go with Daniel Jones because he got his job and Joe Shine, the GM from Buffalo, based on Daniel Jones being the starter, because that's what Giant ownership wanted. So Mitch Trubisky goes to Pittsburgh where he feels he could be the full-time starter. Right. And then, of course, they draft Kenny Pickett. But 4 games, is that fair to a quarterback that you basically promised the job to? I think they promised him the job, or they led him to believe it would be his job.
Well,
here's the thing. Go ahead.
You go back and look at Chicago, right? Chicago, he brought them to the playoffs. Yeah. He's got a big arm. He runs really well. I think that Mitch Trubisky could be a franchise quarterback, guys. I really do.
Wow. But here's the thing I think about Pickett. First of all, he practiced at the same facility as the Steelers. Right. He played at the same field as the Steelers. I mean, he's always known that area, and he knows that field. And that's why I think he can be effective for him. And who's to tell if they're arguing over right now is the offensive coordinator being, more creative. And their running game is not very good. Their offensive line, this is the worst Pittsburgh offensive line in 10 years.
Yeah.
And those issues you got. So that's the thing I think. I think Pickett could be pretty good.
Yeah, I like
Jim, you played Von Miller's position when you played. If you had a quarterback like Kenny Pickett, a rookie starting this week, would you have a big smile on your face? What's Von Miller thinking? Oh, man, this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, especially with that offensive line. Oh, yeah.
What's he going to say to Kenny Pickett when he tackles him? What are some of the things he could say when he sacks him?
I was talking about his Pittsburgh career in college and said, hey, this is not that anymore. This is where the big time players go, Jack.
Wait. Does the defensive end look for quarterback to answer him? When the quarterback talks back, do you know you have him then? What's the best?
Favre always talk back to him.
Oh, yeah.
But that's Brett Favre. He could intimidate he could intimidate the opposition. Kenny Pickett can't. There's a difference involved. But it's the best thing for quarterback to do. Just keep your mouth shut and ignore what's
because
going
next
on.
time you're going to hit them even harder.
Yeah.
You're going to even hit them harder. But, that's how they motivate themselves. There's some guys. Tommy Kramer was the worst at it. He used to play for the Vikings. He was talking. I think he was drunk or something.
Oh, man.
Now, speaking of Giants, Mac, the talk is, I don't know, has it happened? Have they signed them or not? I'm not sure. Landon Collins is supposed to be coming back.
Yes.
Yeah. Safety. A great safety, too.
Yeah.
I think he played.
And they get Leonard Williams back, too.
Yeah. He was with Washington, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's going to help the Giant defense. Him and Leonard Williams on the field there. It's going to, that could be a difference maker. We keep talking about quarterbacks holding on to their job. And unless you're Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert and a couple of others, why is every starting quarterback's job in danger if the backup comes in and plays a good game? Even with Lamar Jackson last year, his backup plays a good game. And there's some talk, they don't really need the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'm kind of wondering, Teddy Bridgewater's coming in for Tua. Let's say they play a big game, the Dolphins, today and win. Is there going to be some whispers that maybe they're better off with Bridgewater than Tua, even though Tua did his job getting off to a good start?
No, but what happens is because the quarterback is normally the center of your team, and they pay him extremely well these days.
Yeah.
And that's what happens, I think. And fans always are in love with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
They're always in love with him. And that's the problem. Like I told you before, in 91, we got to the playoffs because of Steve Beuerlein. But Troy Aikman was the guy. And we knew that Troy Aikman had a bright future. But Troy was injured, and Beuerlein did a tremendous job. And everybody was saying, well, is Beuerlein the guy? And just like what they're doing with Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott, you knew that the better one, who the one as being there. And there was no controversy, but people see that backup quarterback make plays, and they think that he's going to be the guy. But how many of those backups on an extended period of time do that for a long extended
Most
period
of them
time?
don't. Most of them don't really. And he was on Colin Cowherd's show, Steve Beuerlein, and he told that story. And he says that Jimmy wanted to keep him. He kept him in an extra game or two. And Troy was ticked off about it.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
But he said it did help him get another contract with Arizona.
Yeah, in Carolina.
So it worked out for everybody, that situation.
Yeah.
I think the most famous one and done in NFL history for one game was with your Cowboy team before you got there, Jim. Clint Longley played this one big game and became a national phenomenon. And then he really wasn't the guy for the team there.
Yeah, that was before me, Jack. I was still singing childhood songs.
Wow. Roger Staubach was actually the quarterback. Okay? Yeah.
The Mad Bomber.
Listen, those Cowboy teams right before you were a little better than the Cowboy teams you won, and all due respect, for that. They got Roger. Listen, Troy Aikman was a wonderful quarterback, very, very good. Nothing but good things about Troy Aikman, but Roger Staubach was a little better.
Of course, he was Roger the Dodger.
Yes. And that game that the Cowboys came back and beat the Redskins with Clint Longley. It was a Thanksgiving game. And Clint Longley was all done after he punched Roger Staubach.
Yeah. That's right. Could you imagine that somebody would have been on TMZ with that film, that video?
Draymond Green. Talking about him yesterday.
Clint Longley didn't apologize. He said if he didn't like it, we could fight at Madison Square Garden. That's a good thing against, dumb.
Do you think Jack ever got punched by one of those boxers, just a slight love tap? Because you know how Jack is.
Only amateurs Motivation, guys. The Rams are suffering a Super Bowl hangover. They're 2-2. We don't know what to make out of them. Jim hopes they continue to have that hangover at least one more week because the Cowboys are visiting the Rams. I'm thinking of Aaron Donald in particular. You finally get to the mountaintop, one of the great players of all time, I'll say it, Aaron Donald, of all time, finally wins the Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl MVP, and he gets the big, giant contract right after that. This year so far, he's been good. He's been pretty good. But, you get the feeling that Micah Parsons is a little better at this point. Does Aaron Donald wake up and become the one-man wrecking crew of before? Or is he on the decline? Because as Jim said in an earlier show, defensive ends, they kind of hit a wall at a certain point. They lose a step. They're still good, but they're not the same. What's the deal with Aaron Donald?
This is interesting that you say that.
Everybody, before we go on, let's welcome Pags. How we doing?
Yeah.
Pags, we'll talk about the Phillies in a moment. What's the answer?
But what I was going to say.
What an entrance that was.
Cut in when Jim was talking. What do you want? Because you're on the screen.
Well,
I told Max, you're skin.
Well,
you don't get insulted easily unless it has to do with Keith Hernandez.
Okay. Here's the thing on Aaron Donald. He's still a disruptive player if you watch the game against the 49ers. Sometimes they had 3 guys on him trying to block him while the other players weren't producing because he makes a lot of attention. And he still had tackles for loss. He still rushed the quarterback. I don't think anything's wrong with Aaron Donald. It's the people around him. Jalen Ramsey is not playing at Pro Bowl level right now. Jalen Ramsey is not doing the things that he has normally done in the past.
Guys, Stafford's the 3rd most sacked quarterback in the league. I really like the Dallas Cowboys' chances today, particularly up front defensively.
Well, Cooper Kupp is still the top receiver, but what about the people around him? They're not playing at that level.
Allen Robertson's a major disappointment so far.
Yes, he has been.
Yeah.
He has been. And that's where the problem, and like you said, Stafford is getting hit a lot, and he had the elbow issues.
Yeah.
So we don't know how healthy he is, but they are. And here was the interesting thing I read about it is they were practicing the silent count at home. What kind of jump is that? Practicing the silent count at home?
Well, you got
Sean McVay has the ability to bring these guys back after losses. That's my only thing that concerns me. They always come back after losses last year, but this is a different squad.
Yeah,
I actually like Dallas today, Jim.
Yeah.
The Cooper Rush legacy will continue.
Since we're on the Dallas game, it's with the NFC East. Welcome to Philly Sports Guy Pags.
Huge game.
Congratulations on the Phillies advancing to the next round, beating St. Louis 2-0, just as you and I predicted, and Mac didn't. Okay, that particular Philly. Okay, but we're talking football here.
Right.
The Eagles are 1 game ahead of the Cowboys and the Giants right now in the NFC East. At the end of the day, Phillies play at Arizona. Dallas plays at LA. When the day's over, they're going to be tied. The Eagles still going to be 1 game up, but the Eagles going to have a 2-game lead on the Cowboys. What's going to be?
Well, I think that we can only do what we need to do, and that is beat, the Cardinals. And I think that that's going to happen today. I think that they wind up smoking them. I think that the problem I have with the Rams is that they don't look hungry. It looks like they ate yesterday last year, and now that they're just, they got this Super Bowl hangover, and they just don't look, sharp. They don't look like they're interested in playing as much as they did last year, and I think that comes through a little bit. However, I also think that their offensive line is not, is still beat up some. And I think Aaron Donald could have a little bit of a day. I think that he hears the media too. And here's kind of the same thing that I'm saying is that, what do you mean I ain't hungry? So I think that he's going to have a little bit of a day today. I also believe that, Micah could also have a pretty good day today. I think it's going to be a tough game to have points scored. And at that point, you never know what's going to happen. It's really going to be a game of mistakes, and we'll see who makes the mistake that gives up the points and that team's going to wind up winning. So I would just, the only thing that I can say about the Dallas game is that I would go under. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored at all.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's hard to say who's going to win because I just don't know. I just don't trust the Rams. I've been saying it all year long that I thought that the West teams were soft, and I think that this is going to play today.
Well, I don't think the 49ers are soft at all. I think the 49ers have a great defense. They got a good quarterback that always wins. I mean, they're almost violent. I think the 49ers are a very strong team this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the record of 2-2 shows that.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree with Pags on the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are awful. They can't run the ball. And they got Marquise Brown as their featured receiver. And I'm telling you right now, Philly's going to shut them down.
Yeah.
And
Hey, Jamie.
Go ahead.
I got to run, guys. But, Jamie, if you're still coming to Nashville, man, I got a souvenir for you, buddy.
The 22nd, I will be there. I'm going to be there for the Flyers game, and then I am actually looking. Philly sports guy may make a very rare appearance at a game where he then no Philly team is playing.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to be as a I guess a scout watching the Colts and the Titans play.
Got to play at Philadelphia next month, right?
Yeah, they both come. We go to Indy next month, and then Tennessee
comes to Philadelphia, I think. Yeah.
So
I won't be there for that game, though.
But it'll be like me being a scout out there, and I don't know. Right now, tickets are way expensive. I didn't realize how expensive it was to get into that stadium. But
that's why I watch it in TV, man, at home, guys.
Yeah.
I got to run.
All right, Rob.
Rob, quick.
Yeah.
Rob, just very quickly. Who you picking? Packers or Giants?
Oh, Packers. Yeah, come on.
Okay. Cool. See you next week, Rob.
All right, guys. See ya.
Have a good one.
All right.
Pax, this could be a blessing in disguise for the Eagles that they're playing the Cardinals today because they have a lot of injuries on the offensive line, the Eagles, okay? And the Cardinals have no pass rush. So maybe this is a good week where they could get away with it this week until, they get a little more healthy on the offensive line.
It's funny to think that obviously it's going to be Driscoll that starts in place of Mailata, and that's a big thing. I think everybody else is still going to be okay, and if that's what the only injury that we have, I mean, I think that we're going to be just fine. You're right against the Cardinals. I think that they are probably holding back Mailata specifically for next week. Maybe that's the looking ahead to say, okay, we much rather have you 100% healthy against a much better defensive line and defensive, group in total against Dallas than we have against the Cardinals. I don't think it's going to matter today. I think that, I've been saying all weekend long, there's going to be dead Cardinals all over the place. And already we've got, a set out in St. Louis.
Hey, guys, let's take a real quick break, Jack. So,
and then we'll get back, and then we'll get our NFL picks.
Yes. So we'll be right back after this, folks.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
Good morning.
Guys. Hold on.
I love that commercial.
Those are great.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Are we back?
We are desperate to hold on to the viewers because we know
Almost, guys. Almost.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
All yours.
Welcome back. And it's time for our weekly picks here. And we have a game that's going to be starting in a half hour. So the New York Giants I don't want to say at the Green Bay Packers because the game's in London. And what makes it interesting, whenever game's in London, it's kind of a showcase game for the people in London. Here in the United States, I think half the football fans aren't even aware game's going on, at this time in the morning. Because on the West Coast, it's like going to be starting at like 6:30 in the morning over there. But Jim could attest to this, and I would think too. If I'm a player, I circle this game on my calendar. This is a showcase game to me. I'm going to tell you why. Because you want to look impressive in a different territory. You're in London. You're playing in front of a whole different fan base. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to open it up today a little more so because he wants to show the fans in England the type of player he is. I think there's a certain type of pride there because they're in England. I mean, I like the Packers to win the game, relatively comfortably by a couple of touchdowns, let's say. I just think Aaron Rodgers does start opening it up a bit. And I just think the Packers are a better team when it comes down to it. So I like the Packers. What about you guys?
Well, I think what you just said, I was kind of shocked because you don't really care because it's still in a foreign country. And it's not like soccer. It's different. And a lot of those guys, they don't even know what they're cheering for or what team. They look at it on TV, but honestly, they don't understand a lot of our sport because football is an American sport.
Jim is going to, could you imagine this show gets on the news because of what Jim said? That was a hot take. The fans in England have no idea what they're looking at. And then it says Jeff Coat next to it.
It might, yeah. I might be on Twitter. I might be trending on Twitter today. But no, I'm serious. You don't think about that. You think about trying to win a game. That's all you're trying to do is you're trying to win a game and prepare yourself there. You're not thinking, well, I'm in London and I'm going to show out because I'm in London. You're thinking about, I got to beat the New York Giants.
I look at it the other way. I kind of look at it depending on the youth of the teams that this is the first time that some of these guys have left the country.
That is true.
And that becomes a little bit of a factor. I think that, in the coach that's going to be able to keep the team more focused than the other is going to be the team that wins this game. When you get over into London, it seems like you just, that sometimes everything else takes over rather than the game itself. So you're out there and you're like, oh, okay, I've never seen this. I want to get out here since, again, like I said, some of these kids have never left the country.
That is true.
So I kind of think that it's going to be Green Bay's day, but I wouldn't surprise me if the Giants pull off like what would be, I guess, a pretty big upset.
Yeah.
So again, because it's a matter of focus and, it's the same thing with like the coaches. You know what I mean? The Giants coach is a little older than the Packers coach. I don't know anything. I don't know much about the Packers coach in terms of his
Pat,
life.
You heard what Aaron Rodgers said. Matt LaFleur is very grumpy. He's not in a good mood because of the time difference. He's been complaining. Aaron Rodgers was actually laughing about it, which was good. Mac, I have a feeling we know who you're picking in this game.
Well, he's picking the Packers.
Well, first, let me say something. Of course, London knows what football is, Jim. What are you talking about? I mean, they understand the game very well. They know offense, defense, kicking. They know all that stuff. They don't live in a cave or anything like that. So London does understand. England does understand football. And there's a lot of Americans that are over there right now, too. So, yeah, listen, I think the Giants win today. Very, very tough game. I think the Giants' defense is a little bit better than the Packers' defense. I'll take Saquon over Jones by a little bit. I think he's a little more explosive. and I think Daniel Jones will manage the game, and maybe he even runs on a bootleg. We'll see. So I'm going to take. Go ahead.
Who does Aaron Jones? I mean, not Aaron. Who does he throw to? Daniel Jones.
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
throw it to Saquon.
That's all I'm saying is I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, but again,
who is he going to throw to?
Again, it would have to be Saquon. I mean, Saquon can really get an open field. He's gone. So I think the Giants in a real close game and a really big upset, guys.
And the Packers, I think, if I'm correct, have a top 5 defense.
The Packers have an excellent defense.
Yeah, they do.
A great point before we get to the other games to be made, a great point Pax made. You're going to another country for the first time. You've never been there. Everyone wants to sightsee, even probably the coaches deep down want to sightsee. Does the team put time aside to get the sightseeing out of the way in the beginning so the players could, at least when they get back home, they could say, well, we went to so-and-so. Did they do that first thing or what?
I think that's why you leave early, because Tuesday is normally the day off, so you can do things like that. But Wednesday, now you have to concentrate on preparing for the game. But you do make a good point there with young players. They're going to want to see the site. And there are sites in London they may never see again.
Okay, so I guess, Jim, you're picking the Packers. Pax, myself, 3-1 Packers. Max picking the Giants. Pittsburgh at Buffalo. I mean, to me, Buffalo seems like a lock. That Kenny Pickett making his first start of his NFL career. He didn't show anything special against the Jets coming in for the little while. He was supposed to give the team a spark. He really didn't do it against the Jets, but we don't blame him for that particular game. But he has the full week to prepare as the starter. I can't see him going into Buffalo and springing an upset. I think the Bills win that game decisively by about 17 points. Pittsburgh's defense is representable. So Buffalo won't run all over them, but something like 30-13 Buffalo.
But you say he didn't create a spark. He threw 2 interceptions, but he also ran one touchdown and threw a touchdown. So he did create a spark.
Well, I don't mean not a negative spark as well. I mean, he didn't rally the team, in other words.
Yeah, I think Buffalo will beat him. And I think Buffalo is, because of the talent on Buffalo's offense, they'll give him. But I think Pickett will be fine in the future. I don't think Mac thinks he won't be a franchise quarterback. I don't know that. It's hard to say, but I think he'll be a good quarterback.
In defense of Mac, Pickett was taken number 20 overall in the first round. And if a guy is considered to be a quality starting quarterback projected coming out of college, he normally isn't going to last till number 20. One of the other teams had taken him a little earlier.
But some of the players, Jalen Hurts was what, a second-round pick?
But Jalen Hurts was
Aaron Rodgers was what, a second-round pick?
No, first round.
Late,
like
so
20.
You can't say that. You can't say that. There's a lot of great quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson. I mean, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he's won MVPs. So that's not a true statement on that.
Well,
wasn't Tom Brady a 6th-round pick?
Yeah, Tom Brady.
That happens once every 30 years, Pax. I hate that as much as you hate hearing about Keith Hernandez. Tom Brady. Oh, you get great quality on the 6th round. You don't. You don't get great quality. You might luck out. I mean, but come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone here like Pittsburgh to upset Buffalo?
Thinking. I don't think so. I mean, I think Buffalo, Pittsburgh, as you said, their defense will play well, but I don't think they have a shot against Buffalo.
Okay, LA Chargers at Cleveland Browns.
I'm going to jump on this one real fast, and then I'm going to talk about the Eagles real quick because I got to roll. Because although it's early, I got a tailgate that I got to get ready for. So it's usually I'm here all painted up, and the time difference it's got me going kind of funny.
Well, you want to go just for the Eagle game? We'll skip to the Eagle game, and then
let's go
to the Charger game. Arizona. I mean, the Eagles at Arizona. I watched a little of Jim's show with Byron Williams, and Byron Williams picked Arizona to win, and Jim didn't argue with him the way it seemed to me. Okay, what do you think, Pat? Byron Williams not only thinks Arizona is going to win, he more or less said they're going to lay a whipping on the Eagles.
All right.
Yeah, I think that the whipping is like the whipping cream that he's huffing or something like that, because it's that's not going to happen anywhere near it. I think that this is going to make it a little bit of a statement game, that they are going to go out of their way to kind of show the NFL that they're for real, and give something for Dallas to think about coming into Philly next week. Now, people, I've heard a couple of different ways. Do they look at this as a trap game? I look at this as that the Eagles are only going to lose games that they lose focus in. It's like I keep saying, this whole focus situation, but I just don't trust the talent in the rest of the NFL. I think that Dallas has got a good defense. I think their offense is suspect. I think that our defense would actually get and disrupt whoever's going to play quarterback, whether it's Cooper Rush or whether it's Dak Prescott. And I think that that being said, today we smack around Arizona. I have this game 37-22, and it's not even going to be that close. It's going to be like a late touchdown and a 2-point conversion by Arizona that gets them to 22, and that the Eagles are just going to run all over them.
All right, Pags. Well, thanks for coming in. We love having you, as you know, every week here. One of the best, one of the funnest guys to be with at any game. So, Pags, have a great game and get yourself painted up, and we'll see you. We'll see you soon.
Let's go, Phillies.
Now,
all right. Go ahead,
now, Jack, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals have a chance, not with Kyler Murray at quarterback, because somebody said he's playing basically high school football, which he is. He is not playing there. He's a talent, but he does. People don't rally around him. Teams don't rally around him. He is an eye guy. Kyler Murray is going to struggle. He is physically talented, but he is an eye guy.
But why did he get off to such a good start in this NFL career? I mean, it looked initially like he was the real thing for a season and a half, but similar to RG3, why does some of these quarterbacks perform so well initially? And you think a year and a half is a good body of work, you would think.
Here's the thing you have to understand about the NFL. Once the season's over, what do they do to quarterbacks? They study them. They like their dislikes, they're like what they're good at and what they're bad at. And Kyler Murray, people started analyzing him and finding his weaknesses and how he performs under pressure. The worst thing I've ever seen in a quarterback, and I've seen a lot of quarterbacks, is when Aaron Donald broke through the line with the LA Rams and he fell. He didn't even try to challenge Aaron Donald. That showed me something there. That showed me a lot, because I'm not saying that he should have took him head on, but he should have competed. And he was more worried about protecting himself than trying to win games.
We're talking about Kyler Murray here?
Kyler Murray. And I think and people see that. Players see that on the team. His players see that. And like, what is going on? And that's just my opinion on it.
I mean, sometimes a quarterback, guys, gets a bad knock. Like in the Super Bowl with Cam Newton when it was a loose ball, and they claim Newton didn't really try to get it. The angle, sometimes you're on, your body's turned. I thought Newton got a terrible knock, considering all he's been through and the way he's competed throughout his career. I'm just focusing on that one play, the way a guy could get branded unfairly. But Jim, it was pretty revealing, like what you said last week, knowing some of the coaches who coached Kyler Murray in college and their take on him. And that's pretty good.
And they coached Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield, and they never said anything negative about them. But they're saying this guy is a me guy. He wouldn't even sign kids' autographs. He wouldn't. I mean, it was all about him.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, LA Chargers at the Cleveland
Wait
Browns.
a minute. We still got to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. Your pick on that game. I'm assuming we're all picking the Eagles. My fault.
I'll surprise you. I'm going to take the Cardinals in a close game. I think. Yes, I
listen. Left.
Mac is down with Byron. That's all there is. Mac and Byron are friends. They just stick together.
We're very good friends.
Y'all are, because Byron called me yesterday talking about I beat him in a fishing tournament, and he said I put weights and fillets and fish fillets to beat him.
Listen, guys. Listen, again, as I said, they're all professionals. They're all professional football players. They all want to win. I just think that even though the Rams are better defensively, I'm sorry. Right.
The Eagles.
Yes. So I'll just take the Cardinals in a big upset, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, could happen. Listen, they are playing at home, the Cardinals, and if they do beat the Eagles, it is a statement game for them. It shows that, going forward, that they're certainly a potential playoff team if they can beat Philadelphia in this game. But if Pax is right and the Eagles beat them very decisively and Murray performs poorly, it could be a pretty long game in Arizona, because one game, right, guys, could make a season sometimes snowball. They say it's only one game, but it's sometimes there's a moment of truth game. This is it. You're laying it all on the line. And if you fail, it's hard to get up the next week the same way.
And here's my reason behind this, Mac, is if you ever watch Kyler Murray and Chris Kingsbury, you can see the disconnect. In Kingsbury, the last 2 years, they started off hot, and then they faltered at the end of the season. This year, they didn't start off hot. And I think
why did they sign Kyler Murray to that long-term deal? They're stuck with him now.
Yeah, they are.
They can't just move on from Kyler Murray. They've got to live.
Because they were afraid he was going to go to baseball. That's what my.
Good gosh! So let him go to baseball then. What do you really want to baseball?
You say that, but what if he decided to come back after baseball? You understand? So they were in a no-win situation.
Okay, well, getting to the game. Okay, the LA Chargers against the Cleveland Browns. In that game, Cleveland is hard to get a read on. They're like a very, very average team. We're kind of waiting on the Deshaun Watson drama. By the time he comes back after his 11-game suspension, the worry in Cleveland is it might be too late. The Chargers beat Houston last week. They're 2-2. A lot of people still have them projected as a playoff team. I would think they're going to beat Cleveland. I'd pick them by a field goal. Jadeveon Clowney, in Cleveland, I projected him to be a difference maker when he came out of college. Maybe not quite the next Aaron Donald, but maybe close to a J.J. Watt level, maybe just a little behind or close to that. He's been a disappointment because he's only been pretty good at most, and that's stretching it a bit.
Well, didn't they base that off that one hit he made? The running back got the ball and he knocked his helmet off. That's what that was all based off.
You're right. He does have the physical ability, but does he have the other intangibles?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But who do you guys like to Chargers at Cleveland?
I think the Chargers beat the Browns. I think Cleveland's defense is very good. I think their running game is I'm starting to talk myself into Cleveland here. I think their running game is really good. But I'm going to stick with the Chargers in a very, very close game.
It's at Cleveland, and I think the Chargers are better, but I'm going to go with Cleveland because it's at Cleveland. And I just all the things that I think their running game is what's going to give Cleveland Chargers issues. Yeah. And we don't know still how healthy Herbert is. And I know he's going to play, but you got to remember, he still does have a rib injury.
Yeah.
Guys, if Cleveland wins this game, they're going to be in playoff contention. Can you imagine the NFL? That's a PR machine. They want nothing but positive PR. Deshaun Watson comes back after 11 games, and they're in contention, and he leads them to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine Super Bowl week? All the publicity, the talk, it would be that's not what the NFL wants this season. Maybe in the future it's okay. But okay. The Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings.
What?
Jim was higher on the Bears certainly than I was.
Jack, who'd you pick last game?
I picked the LA Chargers.
Okay. All right. The San Diego Chargers.
I picked Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay. Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The Bears, to me, are a bit of a mess offensively. On the defensive side of the ball, they're fairly good. No knocks there. They're a quality team. Offensively, I don't know. Is it Justin Fields? I'm not ready to blame Justin Fields. I mean, he is under a lot of pressure. He hardly passes the ball. They keep running the ball, but they don't have that good of a running game. They're 2-2 right now. But I don't see where that team's exactly going, offensively. And I've got to like Minnesota in this game, something like 24-14, even though it's hard to imagine the Bears scoring 2 touchdowns per se. And the Vikings might win a lot of these games this year and get in the playoffs, and who knows. But I like them to win at home against the Bears for sure.
I like Minnesota and at home, and it's not a night game, so Kirk Cousins is going to play well. So I'm going with Minnesota. And the only problem I worry about with Minnesota is the new coach does not like to run the ball. He will not commit to the run because you see Dalvin.
And they got a good running back too.
Yeah, then Dalvin Cook, and they don't utilize them enough to me. But maybe because he's on my fantasy team and he's driving me crazy. But I think Minnesota will win this game going away.
I tend to agree with you. Listen, I don't think it's I'm trying to remember. I got a brain freeze right now. The Chicago quarterback. Yeah, I don't think it's his fault that they're not playing well. I think the offensive line stinks. Yep. I think he's doing the best he can under certain circumstances. But with that being said, I think Minnesota wins this game too, which means all three of us pick Minnesota and they're going to lose. So there you go.
Lions at New England. This is an intriguing game because if the Lions lose this game, I've got to hand in my Lion card, my Lion towel or whatever, because after last year, I like what Dan Campbell was doing with that team. They lost a ton of close games, meaning you turn it around this year. Some of the close games you lost last year, you start winning the following season. That's what happens when you're having a team on the right track and got the right coach. But it's the same thing is going on again this season. They're 1-3, losing close games. It makes no sense you could play the Eagles close the first game, and then you lose a close one to Minnesota. You lose a close one to Seattle. I just don't like it. I'm going to stick with the Lions for one more game before I basically at least semi give up on them. Okay, they're playing in New England. I know DeAndre Swift is out, which means that might affect the running attack. But Zappe, a rookie quarterback, what's he really going to do? I think Jacoby Myers is back to run the ball for New England. And I know you could say, well, I'll take Bill Belichick over Dan Campbell. They're playing in New England. I'm going to go for the Lions to finally start waking it up and trending where I thought they would. Low-scoring game. How does 20-7 sound, Lions?
Not good at all. I love Zappe. I think Zappe throws the ball all over the place on the Lions. Their defense ain't that good. So I love New England here, and I love them big. Go Zap.
Yeah, and I like New England too, and I think the problem with Detroit is not very good against the run, and New England can run the ball.
Yeah,
and I just think right now, remember I said at the beginning of the season, with teams like Detroit, you got to learn to win, and Detroit has not learned to win, especially on the road. all their big scores have been at home. On the road, they've struggled, and they don't know how to win. And they have to learn how to win and get some confidence.
If the year continues this way for Detroit, and they have another type of year like they're 4-13 or something, do you consider moving on from Dan Campbell? You might like him a lot, but 2 years in a row of absolute mediocrity is.
No,
I don't think so. They just got to win some games, like you said, but this is not going to be one of them.
Yeah, I think he's a really good coach. I really do.
Yeah, Dan's done a nice job.
Next game, someone has to win. That's the beauty of certain NFL games. Seattle at New Orleans. There's got to be a winner there. I don't like either team. Good for Seattle that they're 2-2. To me, that's exceeding expectations. I don't think they're going to keep it up. I think New Orleans is way past their prime, more or less, from every year. Everyone's making them out to be a Super Bowl contender. Alvin Kamara is coming back. He's going to be a factor. Great player. And I kind of like New Orleans 27-24 behind Andy Dalton in that game. Geno Smith is having a really good year, but Geno Smith is what he is. I mean, in the long run, you're going to see Geno Smith is basically a career backup, or at best, a borderline starter at best. But I'm going to like New Orleans in that game at home.
On this one, I'm going to go with Seattle. And here's the reason why. I think Andy Dalton is through. He had a great career, but right at this point in his career, he can't win games for you. And even with Kamara and some of the other weapons, I don't think Andy Dalton can get the ball to him. And I think Seattle plays at a different level. They're not very good. And like I said, we all picked them to be the number one pick. Doesn't look like that, but I don't think New Orleans can really stop Seattle because they have a pretty good running game and they have really good receivers.
Before Matt gives his pick on that game, couldn't New Orleans go to Taysom Hill possibly, or did that experiment go flat?
Yeah, I think Taysom Hill got injured, and he has a clause in his contract. If he plays a certain amount of plays at quarterback, he gets a big bonus. So,
oh, man. I love that. Guys get bonuses for playing, for showing up. Mac, who do you like in that game?
Well, I love what Seattle's been doing. I love Pete Carroll and his enthusiasm. He don't look 70 at all. He looks like he's about 40 years old. But I'm going to go with the Saints. I think the Saints can win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle beats them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next game. This is our statement game. Miami at the New York Jets. I'm going to get to the point. The New York Jets are beating the Miami Dolphins today. The Jets, for the first time in years, become a force.
Oh, man.
People keep talking about the Jets today.
Yeah.
The AFC East, I won't say it's undergoing a facelift because Buffalo's not going away. They're going to be in the Super Bowl mix. The team I think is going to win it. But Buffalo is looking behind their shoulder. 2 years from now, the New York Jets are winning the Super Bowl. 2 years from now.
You said that 2 years ago.
In place now. Miami's hurting. Tyreek Hill is hurting. Jalen Waddle is hurting. And when those guys are hurting, they can play. They can be effective. They're not going to be lightning fast. But I'm going to tell you something. You put Sauce Gardner one-on-one on Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's not burning him. Sauce Gardner's sticking with him. Carl Lawson, if he doesn't do anything stupid the way he did last week, when Pittsburgh's trying a Hail Mary on the last play of the first half, and he roughs the passer and allows Pittsburgh to get in the field goal range to kick a field goal as time expired. I love the Jet defense here. I mean, they're excellent against the run. They're putting on a pass rush. I mean, I like the Jets something like 19-17 today. Go Jets.
He's enthusiastic. How can you argue with a bear? I can't argue with the bear. I mean, come on. Oh Lord!
You guys are picking the Jets. You're going along with it. It's unanimous, I guess. Miami's losing at the Meadowlands today.
Listen, I think the Dolphins beat the Jets. I think it's going to be a really good game. They're rivals. Listen, I do like Miami winning this game. I think they're just an overall more talented team. That's all.
Yeah. This might be shocking to you, but I picked Miami too. I don't think they're going to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're both going to have over 100 yards.
Right.
Jim's just bitter because he wasn't drafted by the Jets out of college. They showed zero interest in him. He wasn't even. I don't think he was even interviewed.
I didn't even come to take their physical, Jack.
I didn't even interview you. I mean, you.
If the Giants would have called me, I would have went. But to Jets,
Jets wouldn't have even taken you if you fell in the second round. Okay.
I'm sorry, Jack. I'm sorry,
well,
Teddy.
You hold a grudge there. I mean,
I'm not holding a grudge. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to have over 100 yards with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to. Okay, we got the other games to go to, so I'll see my pal, but we'll be 3-2 at the end of the day, tied with the Miami Dolphins. By the way, the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, oddly enough, I mean, they're 2-2, but they've lost both games at home. So talk about home field advantage. I've been to games at the Tampa Bay Stadium. I don't think it's a massive home field advantage. The crowd there, everything involved. I mean, it's always a little bit of an advantage. It's more weather related, the advantage, especially if you're a visiting team and playing there in September. Maybe even now there's a carryover to September weather. Buccaneers should beat the Falcons very decisively. Kyle Pitts, the great Falcon tight end, he has a hamstring issue. He's out. Drake London has exceeded my expectations. The Falcons, he might be the best rookie out there. I didn't quite see that coming, honestly. I think the Buccaneers win by 20 points today. But if you're Tom Brady, is football really on your mind here? I mean, man, oh man, I don't see how he could concentrate on the games with all that's going on in his life. Maybe if he was a single guy and he didn't have his kids to deal with, you can. But all those issues. But the Buccaneers, I think, could wake up in the middle of the night and beat the Falcons. They're just that much better.
Yeah, I like the Bucs too. I think Tom Brady, I don't think it bothers him as much as people say. I mean, a lot of people go to work just to get away from their problems and stuff, and they normally concentrate better. But I like the Bucs in a close game today.
See, I think the Bucs are going to get after him. I just think Tom Brady, and he does have the finger and shoulder injuries, but I think the Bucs are a way better team. And without Pitts, I think they're going to struggle. I think Atlanta's going to struggle. Now they're going to play hard, but I still think the Buccaneers will win this game easily.
One word answer, guys: the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still serious Super Bowl contenders or not?
No.
Playoffs,
but not Super Bowl.
Okay. Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. We talked a little about it before. Jim, you said Washington was a complete mess, but they do have a very good run defense, and that's the key to beating Tennessee because Tennessee relies heavily on the running game. That's why I'm going to go for the Commanders to upset Tennessee in this one, 23-21. Carson Wentz has been under tremendous pressure for Washington, but is he really that bad, Carson Wentz? If you block for him, he still potentially could put together some pretty good games. And, he might do it today. So I'm going to go with Washington in that game, by a couple of points.
I like the Titans. I think the Titans, their running game, I don't think Washington will stop that bulldozer. And I think Tannehill does enough to keep the passing game going. The Commanders do have a good defense, but so does Tennessee. Tennessee has a dominating defense, as you saw last year. I like Tennessee. I think they beat him pretty well, too.
I don't think they beat them pretty well, but I like Tennessee. And the reason I like them is not Derrick Henry. I think they're going to get enough in the passing game because I saw Washington struggle against Dallas. They left wide open receivers. And I mean, and they had a lot of penalties. I noticed that against Wallace. But Jack does make a good point. These are the games that Tennessee loses a lot of times.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay. Next game, Houston at Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's the team in the NFL where everyone looks at as being a team of the future. I mean, I'm not really that sure. I mean, they've improved with Doug Peterson over Urban Meyer, of course.
Sure.
But for the first time, I'm getting a bit concerned about Trevor Lawrence because I'm noticing, whenever I see him play, he's a little gun shy when he's under a lot of pressure. He's looking to get rid of the ball a little sooner. That's my perception, at least. I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence is going to truly turn into an elite quarterback. An elite good quarterback, yes, okay? An elite quarterback along the lines of Josh Allen. That's what was projected for him. That's what I thought was going to happen. I'm not that sure about that. But with that said, Jacksonville with their young players, I think they have a little more upside than the Houston Texans. And I'm going to go with Jacksonville to win this game, something like 28-20.
I like Jacksonville also. I think that they got a great running game. I think that young quarterback, Jim even talked about, he plays really good ball. I think he's going to be a star in this league. So I'm just going to say Jacksonville, probably in a tight game. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And I like Jacksonville too. I think Peterson is doing an excellent job. They got a lot of talent, but he's getting that talent to play. And we talk about teaching teams to win. Peterson's teaching this team to win, and they're going to be a tough out. They might be in fighting for a playoff spot later down the road.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of certain teams like Jacksonville, you kind of wait for them to grow up. I mean, there's not a rush at Jacksonville for them to get that much better that quick, but you want to keep seeing the improvement, and we are seeing it over last year. I mean, that's for sure. This next game's intriguing. San Francisco at Carolina, and Carolina Panthers have been a disappointment to me. I thought they were going to take off somewhat this year. Not that I was necessarily high on Baker Mayfield. I wasn't. But I know they have a really good defense, and with McCaffrey and their weapons at wide receiver like Robbie Anderson, I just thought they were going to be pretty good. I thought they'd be about 10-7, which might have been good enough to win the division, I thought beforehand. But there's dissent in Carolina. Matt Rule, the coach, is on the hot seat. Baker Mayfield is on the hot seat. Baker Mayfield might be one bad game away from being replaced by Sam Darnold. That seems incredible. And Nick Bosa, too. Didn't he torment Baker Mayfield about 3 years ago? He sacked him 3 times, intercepted him, and then took, he remembered from the college days and Baker Mayfield planted the flag, and he got back at him that way. But I like San Francisco to win this by a couple of touchdowns because say what you want about the Niners, they really are a very well-rounded team.
I think the 49ers go to the Super Bowl this year. I really do. They're a very, very strong team. Very great on defense. Deebo Samuels is an animal. I like the 49ers big time here, guys. I think they win with no problem at all.
Here's the interesting thing about the 49ers. They're on their third left tackle. They're on their third running back, but they're still effective. Their defense is darn good. I think the 49ers will win this game, but I don't think it'll be easy because Matt Rule is fighting for his job.
True.
I mean, he's probably going to be in a college program next year anyway, but I just think it's going to be a tougher game than people anticipate.
Well, what makes it intriguing, both Matt Rule and Baker Mayfield, if it's a bad game for Carolina today, a very bad game, Matt Rule might get fired by the end of the game.
I don't think so. I think they'll wait till the bye week.
Well, the owner's been a bit edgy in the offseason. He was annoyed, and now he's a very involved owner there. But, we'll see. Okay, we talked about the Ram-Cowboy game, even though we didn't get the picks over there. And LA, at some point during the season, they'll get it together. Are they biding their time kind of in a way, knowing, are they having a Super Bowl hangover? Because, Jim, you lived through it. You really did. You had a similar year. You were
right.
Cowboys 2 years in a row. That year where you were trying to repeat, it took you guys a while to unwind. It's as if you were treading water for a while before you truly were starting to swim. And then at the very end, it started coming together. Okay? Do you see that being with the Rams this year or not? Because I'm going to tell you, I see today them beating the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to be hard for the Cowboys with Cooper Rush going against that defense, going into LA and winning that game. You mentioned Jalen Ramsey. Either Jalen Ramsey has lost it or his pride is going to take over and he's going to get back to being at least close to the player he was.
You want to go, Matt?
No, go ahead, Jim. You go first.
I think the Cowboys will win, and here's my reason is why. Is because, first of all, they are better on defense, believe it or not, than the Rams. And I think there's more issues on the Rams offense than the injuries have caught up with them. And Stafford is not playing. Kupp is playing at the highest level of any receiver in the league right now. But other than that, nobody's stepping up. Their running game is not very good. Their passing game, other than Kupp, is not very good. And they're going to eliminate him. And they're going to force Stafford to win the game. And I don't know if he can win the game at this point with the people that he's playing with. And defensively, they got to stop Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald can take over any game, and he's going to be disruptive as he always is. But if they can find a way to run the game, what I would do is always find out where he's at and run away from Aaron Donald and make him chase me. But I think the Cowboys will edge him out. And like I said earlier in the show, they have to do a silent count at home. How disappointing is that for a team to have to worry about a silent count at home? More Cowboy fans than the Rams fans.
I like the Rams because I hate the Cowboys.
I know that.
Like, that's a good enough reason. That's an analysis. That's the best analysis I've heard, Matt. I wish I hear more expert analysis like that. If you didn't hate the Cowboys, who would you pick if you didn't hate the Cowboys?
Well, I'm still going to take the Rams. I just like the advantage at quarterback. I think the Rams got a big advantage at quarterback. Cooper Kupp is a game manager. Matt Stafford still can make things happen with a great receiver. So I'm going to take Rams in a close game over the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a very defensive game today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good enough. Okay.
Jack, you got Jack?
I like the Rams in that game. Something like 22-15. I can't. If Dallas does win, it's going to be a close game. If Dallas does win, I can't see a lot of scoring in this game.
Yeah,
I mean, say what you
I think that plays to Dallas's advantage in the close game.
Yes,
I'm going to tell you, if I made this bold statement and said the Cowboys have the best defensive unit in the NFL, you can make that argument actually.
I
mean, arguably.
I have to be honest, it's pretty good defense.
I think so too. I don't think
arguably. I'm not. Yeah. Okay. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Last week, the Ravens lost the heartbreaker, and Coach Harbaugh, the Ravens, came on a lot of criticism. They're tied with Buffalo very late in the game. They have 4th and 1, I think it was, and Lamar Jackson. I think it was 4th and 1. Lamar Jackson, they go for it, okay? Rather than kick a field goal to go up 3 points and put the ball in the hands of their defense. I completely agreed with the decision, completely. I'm not a believer you rely on your defense because if the team you're playing against has an elite quarterback and they're winners, they're going to march the ball down the field and get it into field goal position at the very least to tie it, at the very least. He was going for the win right over there, basically, or to put enough pressure on Buffalo where they'd have to march down the field and get a touchdown because he knew they were going to get a field goal anyway. He was going for the win. I respect that. They didn't execute. They lost the game. Their second loss of the season. They lost the game before that, which they blew a big lead against Miami. So they're 2-2 when they could easily be 4-0. But the Bengal team, they're playing just has struggled a bit this year in their issues protecting Joe Burrow like they've always been. I'd like the Ravens to win this game at home by about 10 points, 27-17. Wow.
Yeah, I like the Ravens too. I think that Jackson will run really well against the Ravens. I think they'll have running plays for him to execute. Burrows does have the better arm, or more accurate, I should say. But I do like the Ravens. I don't think it'll be that close, Jack. I mean, that distance apart. I think this is going to be a really close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think Burrows, and he hasn't got the ball to chase a lot. He's used T. Higgins more, but I just think they're going to have a good. And I love Cincinnati's running game, and they're going to get it on track today.
Guys, I have a bulletin.
Flash, before we finish this, the Arizona Cardinals have won their last 3 games versus the Philadelphia Eagles at home.
Ooh,
I never knew that.
See?
Yeah, but when people
change that for
me. No. But when people use those stats, how many of the players have played in those games? People, I love the way they use those stats. You've got maybe like 4 guys who played in 2 of the games. One of the games. I don't go for that stat, guys. I have a bulletin. 8 minutes left in the first quarter. The Green Bay Packers 3-0 over the Giants. So they're just warming up. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how they got in field goal range, but whatever. But the Packers with a big early lead, it really means nothing.
Big early lead. It's 3-6.
I mentioned it because we had to fill it in with news.
And the Giants have the ball and they're driving right now.
Listen, we could be like ESPN and have one of these hypothetical matchups. Who's had a greater career, Michael Jordan or Tom Brady? It's totally different. That's like asking, what's better, cantaloupe or cheesecake? I mean, it's just
what?
Well, probably cheesecake taste. That's a topic if we have time. The buffet tables that the NFL has for the teams after the game. But listen, we got another game. We talked about the Philly-Arizona game. I think, Mac, you picked Arizona, Jim and myself, Philly, correct? Yeah. The LA Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Raiders are somewhat of a mess, I mean, Josh McDaniel coming there. I'm going to tell you, the Raiders are getting what they deserve. They had such a happy team under Rick Bisaccia. Everyone loved him, and they won for him when he came in as interim coach. But Mark Davis, the owner, he's intrigued by Josh McDaniel because what he did at New England. But all these New England assistants, for the most part, they don't succeed when they go elsewhere. And the Raiders are 1-3. I think they're going to be a bit of a mess. The Chiefs are very strong at home. They beat them by a good couple of touchdowns.
I'm going with the Chiefs in a very close game. I think these 2 teams are going to go at it. I like Carr. I think what he passed for like 4,000 yards last year. Mahomes, of course, we know what Mahomes can do. But I think these 2 are going to be slugging out the whole game. I think it's.
Who are you picking?
I'm taking the Chiefs.
Because you were talking about the virtues of Derek Carr.
No, I think Derek Carr is a very good quarterback. But I like the Chiefs in a very, very close game.
Yeah.
You know what, Jim? Go ahead.
All I was going to say is that if I'm correct, I think the Raiders beat them twice last year.
Mm-hmm. That's last year. That's last year.
But what I was going to say was I think Devontae Adams is going to have a big game. and he's going to be difficult for the Chiefs to cover. But I just think Mahomes is going to be the difference. And like you, I think it's going to be a tight game, tighter than anybody anticipated. And the Chiefs are edge him out at the end.
Okay.
So I'm going with the Chiefs.
Okay, so I think we covered all the games this week. I mentioned a point that's fun, interesting. For an NFL team, how far before the game do you eat? Do players take supplements during a game? If, let's say, the blood sugar levels maybe are going down a little bit, what are the habits? I mean, during the NFL Pro Bowl game, one of the players was sitting on the bench eating a bag of chips. That didn't look too good to me in the past.
We used to have orange and bananas for the halftime, Jack. I don't know how every team does it. And you'd have some like Gatorade, those little Gatorade packets that you would take. But other than that, I don't know. They might have changed because that was quite a while. That was the ancient age back then.
Yeah, right.
What about after the game? You walk in, there's a table with food or what?
No, there is food, but it's not anything that you usually go to dinner with your family after the game.
Did you ever see a case of a teammate, your team lost a tight game, and one of the leaders is disgusted, and he flips the table over, and all the food's on the floor?
No, because
that
the offensive linemen
jump
on you. Offensive linemen love to eat.
Of all the games today, if you can only watch one game, I think it's obvious with Jim. It's kind of Mac can't fully see it because it's going on now, the Giants and the Packers. Which is the one game you'd want to watch? I think it's all of us with the teams that we root for.
Yeah,
I would think.
Yeah, I'd like to see Dallas in, but that doesn't start till later on. And I'm always interested in what the Giants are doing. So I'm going to definitely be watching that.
And Jim, we didn't have a chance to really talk with you fully about the game Thursday night because it took place. There's a mess in Denver. Is it going to get straightened out before the season's over?
I really don't anticipate it because they should have beat Indianapolis. They had opportunities.
I think it will. I think that's it's just the beginning of the season. I think that Denver's got too good of a team to just fall apart. Russell Wilson is too good of a quarterback.
But do you think the health of Russell Wilson is going to determine that?
No, not at all, Jim. I mean, if he gets injured, he gets injured. Just
because they said he has a tear in his lat.
Yeah, that I could see. That I could see. But other than that, I think Denver's a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
And with New England, if they lose to the Lions today, I mean, does the feeling in New England change? Do we hear some anti-Belichick sentiments? Because Robert Kraft is perceived as being a good owner. And I'm not saying he isn't, but he's left Belichick alone for a couple of decades because Belichick has won. But now if they lose to the Detroit Lions, it wouldn't be like losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. Does some discontent start in New England?
Hey, Jim, before you go, who did you pick with the Lions and the Patriots?
I picked the Patriots.
The Patriots, okay.
I picked the Lions.
Okay.
What happens in New England, guys, if they lose to the Lions?
I think Belichick has credit and credibility. They're not going to even mess with him.
Nothing's going to happen.
He'll determine when he's ready to go.
Yeah, I think so.
You think it's Belichick's job as long as he wants it?
Yes.
Me too.
I disagree. I think we're living in a world of what have you done for me lately. Case in point, I could refer to last night's Met game. Max Scherzer, I know it's baseball, pitched wonderfully for the Mets, great all year. Not the night before last night. He gets bombed out. He's terrible. Game one of the playoffs. They booed him off the mound, the Met fans. I think
Bill Belichick is probably one of the greatest coaches in history. I mean,
yes, he's up there with Andrew Lombardi.
Sure.
Not Eubanks, but he's close.
What are you gonna say? I mean, how can you tell him he's done? I mean, you know what the fans would do?
Oh yeah.
I don't think you tell him you're done now, but I think there's some rumblings you kind of give them another year something, and then maybe you feel some new blood comes. And I don't know. I mean, I hope you're right. He certainly earned the right to be there as long as he wants. Yeah. And he's earned the right more than we have to stay and continue doing this show. That's for sure. But it's been
speak for yourself, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, that's it, guys. Great time. Nothing like NFL Sunday. That's when I like.
I'm looking forward to this Giants Green Bay turning it on.
Oh yeah, it's a good game.
I know Jim was watching the game while we were doing this show.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, Mac, Jim, it's been a delight. See you guys.
Always good. It's better with Jack. I mean, Mac, but you're all right, Jack.
Oh yes, today. That's all right.